TV's most watched video game show.
Today on X-Play, we go hands-on in the world premiere live demo of Prototype. Yes, that Prototype. Plus, we've got FaceTime with Sony Marketing VP Scott Steinberg to find out what PS3 games are on the horizon and what Sony's got planned for 2008. And get ready for the X-Play Gamer Challenge. We meet Mr. Sark on Halo 3 Sand Trap for the race of your life. It's game time.
Welcome to X-Play, the center of the gaming universe. I am Morgan Webb.
And I'm Adam Sessler. We're coming to you from the G4 Studios in Los Angeles on Thursday, January 17th.
On today's show, cancel your plans and sit your ass in front of the TV. We have a world-exclusive live demo of Radical's Prototype. Plus, we're going to introduce you to Mr. Sark, who is ready to give you some truly difficult gamer challenges and put your Halo skills to the test.
Then we'll talk with Sony's Scott Steinberg about what we can expect from Sony and the PlayStation 3 in 2008. And if this is the year, their Empire Strikes Back. But first, let's go over to Morgan for all of today's gaming headlines.
Thanks, Adam. A new Diablo-style dungeon crawler called Mythos is aiming to scratch an itch that PC gamers have had since the release of Diablo 2. The game will feature 3 different races and a number of unique character classes to choose from. Best of all, the game's developer, Flagship Studios, is planning to release Mythos free of charge. When asked to comment, Max Schaefer, the game's executive producer and COO of Flagship Studios, tells X-Play, Mythos carves out an entirely new genre of gaming, the AAA casual game. Free to download and play, but with the highest production values and deep addictive fun. Again, you are not hearing things. Mythos will be free to download and free to play. Atari has announced its next installment in the Dragon Ball Z line of video games. Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit is being developed by Namco Bandai for both the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. The game will feature an online multiplayer component in addition to newly stylized visuals that will utilize the graphical power of both systems. This Super Saiyan-filled fighting game is slated for a 2008 release and is sure to be packed with all of your favorite DBZ characters, fighting locations, and special attacks from the iconic anime series. Just be careful what you say to Vegeta. He's sensitive. That's all for today's gaming update. Be sure to visit us on the web at g4tv.com/xplay to continue getting all of today's up-to-the-minute video game news. But now, let's go back over to Adam, who, despite being my co-host, can never get enough FaceTime.
Usually it's just me and Amir. But thank you, Morgan. Now, speculation, that's for old-timey prospectors and internet trolls. For the real scoop on what's up Sony's collective sleeves this year, you have to get some FaceTime. The end of 2007 saw the release of exclusive PlayStation 3 titles like Ratchet & Clank, Heavenly Sword, and Uncharted Drake's Fortune, along with brisk sales of the PS3's 40 gig and 80 gig bundles. With 2008 just underway, we're ready to talk with the Vice President of Sony's Product Marketing, Scott Steinberg, to find out what's in store for the next 12 months. And now we are joined by Scott Steinberg, Vice President of Product Marketing for PlayStation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we do want to focus on 2008, but a quick sense, how do you feel about Sony and PlayStation for the end of 2007?
Well, the PlayStation brand had a monster Christmas, Adam. We, for the PS2 and the PSP and the PS3, we hit or exceeded all of our sales benchmarks. I think for the PS3, going in at a $399 price point in the fall with the kind of lineup we had, really hit a trigger, and we just had a great holiday season.
Looking at 2008, what do you think are going to be the biggest titles of 2008 that's really going to keep that momentum going for Sony?
I think the fans should expect to see a great diversification of software on the platform, and you'll see games like Little Big Planet, but you'll also see large, major scale games like Metal Gear Solid and Killzone 2 and SOCOM, those kind of brands that can really only fit on Blu-ray. Because quite frankly, Adam, this next year you're going to start seeing games tipping the scales at around $30 or 50 gigs of game content, and that's only going to fit on a Blu-ray disc.
Now, also about them fitting on the disc, also fitting within the year. We experienced on all the platforms last year a rather dry summer. Do you think Sony's going to make an attempt to try to get more of these games throughout the year rather than all bunching up in the Christmas season?
We're doing our best. You know, software development is anything but a science, but you'll see coming in the spring, of course, Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. You'll see Major League Baseball 08, the show. A little game called Metal Gear Solid, shipping exclusively on the PlayStation 3. I think you've heard that. That's our lineup going into the summer. But then also on the PSP, expect to see God of War exclusively on the PSP, built for that platform, shipping in the spring. And then Crisis Core Final Fantasy game shipping also on the platform. So we've got a very loaded spring, and I think that momentum will carry us into the summer. But Metal Gear Solid will certainly be one of our top titles, and I also can't forget Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation 3 as well.
Now, a quick one too, Little Big Planet. This is a game that we here are very excited about. It's a very different type of game for you guys. How are you going to try to sell that to try to broaden the audience, and when do you think we might actually get our hands on it?
I think Little Big Planet has that potential to drive new customers into the PlayStation 3. The pillars of that game are play, create, share, and it is the most ambitious game I think we've built. And I guess I would just want to caution the PlayStation Nation and our fans to give us time to make it right. We aren't going to rush this game. We think it has the potential to be a massive blockbuster, and we'll be very measured as to how we unwrap it. Expect more information around E3, but we're going to be very careful with how we treat this baby. And we know we're only going to be the beneficiaries of that. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you, Adam. All right, now let's send it back over to Morgan.
Thanks, Adam. Due to the massive success of Nintendo's Wii, a lot of developers are scrambling to get games out there. But the question is, are they any good? Don't worry, XPlay is here to help. Take a look at these quick hit Wii reviews. So, your parents sold one of their kidneys to get you that Nintendo Wii you wanted for Christmas. Quit bragging. Here are some quick reviews of a few titles you might be considering. First, we have Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Despite its overly long name, this is the best title yet in the Budokai series. It looks great. The game features every character you'd ever want to play, and some you wouldn't. The only real problem here, and it's a major one, is that the online mode is slower than a Dane Cook fan at a Dennis Miller performance.
Hey, if you keep crying, I will break your neck!
Fine. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 gets a 3 out of 5. Next up is Rayman Raving Rabbids 2, the follow-up to the lovably wacky collection of minigames that was released in 2006. It does a good job of retaining the over-the-top tone we fell in love with to begin with, but that's about all that's good. There are fewer games here than in the original, and none of them are very challenging. Rayman Raving Rabbids 2 strums up a 2 out of 5. Finally, we have Samurai Warriors Katana. If you think this is your typical Shogun-era Japanese slicer and dicer, think again. This is your typical Shogun-era Japanese slicer and dicer circa 2001. It's a Wii game that looks like a PS2 game, an early PS2 game. Besides the terrible, clippy, often cheesy graphics, you get downright appalling voice acting.
Worthless. How will we get ourselves through this predicament?
Don't even try. Samurai Warriors Katana gets an abysmal 1 out of 5.
A small part of me dies every time I see a 1 out of 5.
But things are looking up. Ubisoft has recently said that they want to deliver more solid games for the Wii, more of Nintendo caliber. So let's hope they pull it off.
All right, just don't buy the shovelware, and the companies will get the message.
Coming up, Mr. Sark lays some warthog rubber on the road in the XPlay Gamer Challenge. Can you come out on top? And get ready for a world exclusive. Radical Entertainment will come by the studio for the first live demo of Prototype. New York is about to be under siege. Stay tuned.
The biggest games are decided by the smallest detail.
Kind of.
Welcome back to X-Play. Right now, it is time to introduce you to a new segment, the X-Play Gamer Challenge. Our resident gaming badass Scott Robinson, aka Mr. Sark on Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network, has been destroying us long enough. So now it's time for you, the viewer, to beat him at his own game. Do you have what it takes? Here's Mr. Sark with this week's X-Play Gamer Challenge.
Hey X-Players, Mr. Sark here in X-Play's Game Lab. Dust off your Halo 3 discs. This week's challenge is called Sark Kart, and it's going down on the dunes of Sandtrap. Using Halo 3's level editor Forge, I've put together a mongoose race. All you have to do is haul ass. Now there are a few surprises between you and the finish line, but I didn't say this was going to be easy. Here's how you play. Log in with your gamertag at bungie.net and go to the Halo 3 page. Look me up on the People Finder, MR_SARK. Now that you stalkers have found my page, click on my file share. Download both Sark Kart files. Once these have downloaded to your Xbox, start a custom game of VIP on the Sark Kart map, and you're off to the races. Crank out your fastest lap, then save the film to your file share and recommend it to me. I'll be looking for the shortest save films, so remember, clock's ticking as soon as the game starts.
All right, this looks good, Mr. Sark. Now, would you say this course is like Mario Kart hard or Forza hard?
I'd say it's somewhere in between, but the effort will be worth it.
All right, well, thanks for creating the challenge and for stopping by. Now, remember, the person with the fastest time in the course will win an X-Play t-shirt from Jinx. So be sure to go to bungie.net/Xplay right after the show. And when we return, we got our grubby little hands on Prototype. But first, let's check out today's leaderboards to see who rules them all in Tony Hawk's Proving Ground.
Everything that man designs carries within it the seeds of its own destruction.
Welcome back to X-Play. If you love free roaming action games, we have a world-exclusive demo that will exceed all of your expectations. If that's not your type of game, what's wrong with you? Get ready to go hands-on with Prototype. Radical Entertainment is best known for their work on Scarface, The World Is Yours, and Simpsons Hit and Run. But those titles couldn't possibly prepare you for their next project, Prototype. New York is in the middle of a war, and amnesiac Alex Mercer is caught in the crossfire. Armed with amazing abilities, it's up to you to decide how it all plays out. Joining us today is Radical Entertainment's Chris Ansell. Thank you so much for stopping by.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for bringing Prototype. Now tell us a little bit about the elevator pitch of Prototype.
Prototype is an open-world action game set in 2008 in New York City. And essentially, you get to play a brutal shapeshifter called Alex Mercer. And you can consume the bodies of anybody in New York City to obtain their DNA, their memory, their appearance, and essentially use those skills to consume and become, and basically cut your way to a huge conspiracy.
So tell us a little bit about what we're seeing right now.
What you're seeing now is actually a 20% build of part of open world New York City. We're basically building New York City. We took 22,000 photographs to make sure we got this thing right. And so we're a completely open world setting. And what you're seeing here is essentially Alex using incredible skills of locomotion to actually combine AI and locomotion and movement abilities, so you can actually get around the city as fast and as smoothly and swiftly as possible, because the enemies that will come after you are absolutely lethal.
So what did we see a little bit there? We saw his arms had transformed into blades slightly, and did we also see, was that him consuming the mass of somebody else that we saw?
Correct. He has basically, the whole engine of the game is that you have these incredible shape-shifting abilities, which means that from shape-shifting you can also make your body into incredible biological weapons. So you can weaponize yourself. But also through shape-shifting, you have a attack powers, defense powers, sensory powers, and you can also, of course, consume and become anybody you see in the world. So as you basically consume them, you break their mass into your body, and you can then, of course, look like them, which gives you some great disguise gameplay opportunities.
And what form is he in currently?
He right now is actually in an armored form, which actually makes him, as he consumes people, he gets more dense.
Okay.
So basically things like cars, vehicles, if you run through them, as opposed to hyper parkouring over, you'll actually smash through them. So as you consume, you get stronger, and you actually gain more DNA and more abilities.
And how are you able to consume people? Do you need to get them into a private area, or can you just basically consume as many people as you can get your hands on?
The game is all about open world choice.
Okay.
Open world games really, you need to have huge amounts of choice. We want players to feel completely empowered. This is a power fantasy. So if you want to actually go all out and do a mission through absolute destruction, you actually can, and you can consume in public, but that will bring forces up against you, whether it's the Blackwatch forces, whether it's the military forces or the infected. Or you can actually play a way more stealthier disguise-based game and grab someone, go into a quiet corner where no one can see you, and then disguise from that point of view.
So tell me a little bit about Blackwatch.
Blackwatch are extremely dangerous, super secret arm of the military. They're actually way above the military and way above top secret.
Because you're kind of trashing the military a little bit right here.
Essentially, we do want the player to feel extremely powerful.
Okay.
So that's part of the game, is to basically kick lots of butt.
Yeah.
And but of course, as you do that, obviously our previous game was Hulk Ultimate Destruction. So we love character action games, and we think we understand that players want to feel powerful, but you have to always have a constant level of powerful enemies coming after you.
Well, otherwise you're just hurting people for no reason.
Absolutely, there has to be a balance, and that's really important to the game design.
Are there going to be any online components to this game?
Yeah, we actually have full online co-op mode.
Okay.
So you and a friend can basically become two prototypes, because obviously the DNA strain could be split, and so it's really cool because essentially
once you get the science in there, really you can make whatever you want happen.
We can go pretty crazy with that stuff. But online co-op is something I think no one has ever seen before. To the kind of the level of explosive action we have in this game.
Who are you fighting right now? These guys.
This is basically the Hunter Brawler. Now in this scene, Alex is actually running down the street because these guys really are extremely dangerous, extremely lethal, and have many of your abilities.
You are charging.
So essentially, what we're trying to do here is absolutely try and get away from these guys. And even if you're not, if you actually leave them, they will actually tear up the city by themselves. Like, they are extremely aggressive enemies.
Is there any way that you can attack them at all?
Absolutely. There'll be a large combat mechanic to the game.
So what are some of his other powers, other than, so we can see that he gets the armor skin, and I've seen the blaze. Does he have other powers that he can sort of accumulate during the game?
Totally. I mean, it's a power fantasy, so essentially it's really important for us to go crazy with the powers, and they're divided into attack powers, defensive powers, for example, large body armor, shield arms. We have sensory powers. Sensory powers will allow you to actually see through, like if a missile hits a building, it'll cause huge dust explosions that'll persistent. So you need to be able to see through that stuff to see who's coming at you. So there'll be large sensory powers as well as the whole disguise and consume mechanic as well.
Are you a good guy or a bad guy? Is he a villain or is he a hero? This power fantasy doesn't usually go with heroes, but...
He is designed to absolutely live in the gray space between white and black. He's definitely not a superhero. If you want a game to rescue kittens out of trees, as our lead designer Eric Holmes says, this is not the game for you.
There are games where you do that, but this doesn't look like that game.
This is not that game.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the demo, Chris. Prototype is set for release this summer, and we don't think it can come soon enough. It looks amazing. Do not go anywhere. X-Play will be back with more right after this.
After the break, should you sell off your Wii for a PlayStation 3? We do our civic duty and answer all of your burning gaming questions in today's Video Viewer Mail.
Video games are evolving.
Exactly like that. Kinda.
I sold my Wii on eBay to help pay for my PS3. Do you think I made the right decision?
Welcome back to X-Play, the home of tough decisions.
Obviously, your Wii was not making you happy if you thought it was a good idea to sell it.
But you know what? I really wouldn't recommend that because even though you might have an issue with it now, who knows? Maybe in a year, you're going to see all these games you're going to play on it and you're like, oh man, I had that Wii, but now I don't.
But, maybe you got a really good price for it.
That's true.
I mean, those Wiis were going for a lot of money on eBay before Christmas, so maybe
it can help offset the price of a PS3.
All right, Ben, thanks you so much for the question. We're sorry you made the fatal mistake of not consulting us first, but it happens. But that's all we have today. Dry those eyes. We shall return tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern with a brand new show. Rubbin is part of Racing and Crashin' is part of Burnout. We're going to go hands-on with Burnout Paradise and see what the Open City has to offer.
Then we'll begin our Will Work for Game series and show you what it's like to work as a game tester. Let's hope it's not a Red Bull-fueled nightmare. Plus, we'll review Kingdom Under Fire, Circle of Doom, and tell you if this action RPG is up to snuff. And if you enjoyed the prototype demo, don't worry. We're going to have more footage when X-Play goes to GDC next month. And there's going to be a lot more info on that week, and that's going to be coming up.
We also have some prototype on the web. So if you want to get more, you can always go there and check that out. I love the open world gameplay. We're seeing so much more of that these days, and it's great to see.
Well, it's one of the most kinetic games I think I've ever seen. Just the satisfaction of running into those cars. That's a game in and of itself, but there's more to it.
There's more to it. There's going to be missions, but it's just that feeling of being like 2 tons. And
yes.
Thank you for watching X-Play.